Hi. Sorry, just grabbing something out of my bag. Okay, that's awkward. It's like looking behind the screen of the Great Wizard of Oz. Oh shit. The hell? What? Hi. Hi, everybody. That was awkward.
Awkward silence. You got me acting like a jackass trying to do the Steven Seagal.
I had to
And
do
then,
it. I had to get my brain grenade.
Yeah. Yeah, those are very important. Yeah, I kind of wish I'd have made some coffee before we started, just because. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody? I think your mic is coming in a bit silent. I don't know if you have it connected, buddy.
No, I'm just not talking loud enough. Is that it?
It's possible.
I'll
Either
talk
that or
loud
it's coming through your headset. I don't know.
Should be.
Anyways, sorry guys. Hi.
Ooh, good call. How about now?
Oh, that's much better.
Okay, yeah. Totally what it was.
Live show, folks.
Yeah, only in the middle of our 4th season. We don't know what the fuck we're doing. So, what's going on, everybody? Hi. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome to the Thunderdome, bitch. No, not really. This is Battle Bros podcast with myself, Mac, and my co-host and cohort, Alamo. We're two guys that have known each other for a long ass time. How long, do you ask?
Sometimes I say it's a bit too long of a time.
What is that from? Or did you just pull that out of your ass?
You tell me.
Okay. Thank you, Sam Elliott. Anyway, moving along. So we've known each other since high school. We both served during GWAT. Alamo was active duty and went to Iraq. I was in the National Guard in Florida, and I went to Afghanistan.
OIF, baby!
Slightly different contrasting views and just different differences of perspective, but we can still kind of talk about, a lot of different things because we've either experienced it, seen it firsthand, or, other things of the sort. So there you go. You got the gist of it. Those are the cliff notes. Moving on. So, we do this podcast, and we do it once a week on Fridays. So if you caught our show last week, we were talking about the topic of shame. That was episode 079. We talked about shame. Before that, we talked about failure and success as well. So check them out. We like them. They were good conversations. We enjoyed them. All that good stuff. Before we get into the topic this week, we're going to talk about some contemporary issues that have been in the news and social media. So, Alamo, if you'll do me a favor and bring up the picture of First Sergeant Parker, please. I'd appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
So while he's doing that, let me kind of give you the rundown. There was an article that appeared. First time I saw it, there was a snippet on Army WTF Moments Facebook page, basically showing this gentleman here. This is Army First Sergeant Parker, who is with Alpha Company, 29th Brigade Sustainment Battalion, Brigade Support Battalion out of Schofield Barracks in Hawaii. You can see that First Sergeant Parker here has his Ranger tab, has a Sapper tab, airborne. He's got a CAB, and pretty squared away. Now, what kind of became of this was that he got on social media and was like, "Hey, I have a beard, so does that make me a shit leader?" Not necessarily. Well, as a result of this, and he's kind of saying, basically, he was saying, to paraphrase it, he was like, beards just don't mean you're a trash leader. It just means, hey, you might have a shaving profile. You might have a religious accommodation. There are people that ask to have a beard because of their faith. whether they be Sikh or whether they believe in Norse mythology, any one of those religions that might apply there. Well, apparently somebody at Battalion didn't like it that much, and First Sergeant Parker here was laterally transferred to Master Sergeant. So he stayed at the E8 level, but he just lost his diamond, lost his company. And it sparked a pretty big debate. And it's funny because we talked about this in the first episode of this season where we talked about what if. And the hypothetical was that you, Alamo, and I, if we had been appointed as the Sergeant Major of the Army, what is going to be like your legacy? For Dan Daly, it was the introduction of the green service uniform, the pinks and greens, so on and so forth. And I actually said, hey, like if we can have all this other crap, let's have beards. Well, goes to show you beards aren't exactly on the up and up, because you still got some people that are just like, no, we don't want this. It's not professional. And I really tend to disagree with that, because I mean, look all around us. You have police officers nowadays that are allowed to wear full beards, and they, it used to be like if you had any type of tattoos, you had to cover that up. Nobody cares if you have tattoos. Like I have an acquaintance of mine from school. Her name is Sarah. She works as a paramedic, nationally certified paramedic out in, I believe, Iowa. And she's got a whole sleeve. And if you're saving my life, do I really give a damn what you look like or what God you pray to or any other crap? No. If you do the job, hey, great. I appreciate it. I am forever in your debt. I don't give a crap if you're what God you pray to, what you look like. Who cares? I don't care if you have tattoos or piercings in your face. Cool. If you know enough stuff to start my heart again, let's do that. That's more important. Same thing with beards. Like, come on. Like it's just ridiculous. So there's been let me get back on track here. Sorry. So yeah, Master Sergeant Darham Parker, who has more than 24,000 followers and 550,000 likes associated with his TikTok account, celebrated his elevation to First Sergeant as part of the Hawaii-based Alpha Company 29th Brigade Engineer Battalion, in an April 30th video post. Okay. Since this video has come out, somebody, at battalion level was like, yeah, no, kind of bringing undue attention to it. So like, here's what we're going to do about it. And they kind of transferred him out of being a first sergeant. He lost his company, lost his diamond. He's now just a regular master sergeant. Not a regular, but he's, doesn't have the diamond, the lozenge insignia in his rank anymore. It's still the same pay grade. But leading a company is kind of a special deal. Being a first sergeant is kind of awesome. But in addition to this, if you go on Facebook, you don't have to pull this up, Alamo, because I know that's be showing like Facebook stuff. But there's a page called Army WTF, as in what the freak moments. Not really freak, but you know what I'm saying. And there have been a lot of people that have gone on there and made posts about, hey, like there was a first sergeant who was like, I am with the 504th EMIB, which I'm assuming it's got to do something with like, religious type services or something. I don't know. But he's like, you look out in our formation, we got 20 different types of beards. We got guys that have shaving profiles. We have guys that are heathens. We have guys that are, Muslim, Sikh, whatever. It's like, who cares? Does a beard really define a soldier? There was a great photo of a guy in full Ranger kit, wearing a plate carrier. He's got, combat shirt cut off, wearing the throwback Ranger diamond patch from World War II. And he's got on his helmet, and he's got on nods on stuff, chin strap undone, John Wayne in it. And he's got a nice full beard. He's like, oh, he's got a beard. Must be a trash leader.
Looking all badass, too.
Looking like a badass. Like, hey, the guy doesn't wear underwear. Balls don't fit. Cool, But why does it matter? Like, it's okay. If we can accommodate, if we can have more than like, and okay, so let me qualify this statement. I'm not making a political statement when I say this, but if we can have more than two genders, like there's gender fluidity, there's gender transitioning, there's all this other stuff. If we can have more than two genders, and we have people that are identifying as females that are biological males that have full beards, why can't we have beards in the Army?
Agreed.
If we should have beards in 2024, like it's like the guy sitting there at the table on a college campus. Beards should be allowed in the military. Changed my mind. But I mean, honestly, like, who cares? I mean, it's, I will agree it's not the military that I served in.
Correct.
That was 20 years ago. This is the new generation. This is what Gen Z, Gen A in now. Who cares? Oh, so it's funny enough. Speaking of that, like talking about it not being in the military, kind of unrelated here. Alamo, bear with me. I was talking to a friend of mine in high school. Her husband just retired last year after 23 years in the Navy. He's a chief petty officer, so I was a surface warfare guy. And they showed a ship pulling into the port of Miami, a naval vessel pulling into the port of Miami for Fleet Week, which is a big deal. About this time of year, they have one up in New York, and they had a bunch of dudes wearing their Cracker Jacks, the white white bell bottom not dungarees.
Yeah, it's a dress uniform, but it's like not like the.
It's like for enlisted guys. It's got the bell bottoms and it's got the Dixie Quantum stuff. Had a bunch of those dude Marines down there, and they were playing some bomb ass music, and they're all sitting there, got their hats off, and they're just like jamming. And he's like, it's like, when I was in, you couldn't do that kind of crap. You had to maintain your uniform discipline. You can't take your cover off. You can't just strip it off and start, doing like. It had a bunch of Marines down there in their service. I want to say it was their service Charlies. It was either dress blue Charlies or dress blue Deltas. I forget, but it's like the blue pants and had the khaki top, short sleeve stuff. But yeah, they're all, and I'm just like, yeah. It's like this is one of those old timer moments where you're just like looking at it like, could do that when I was. But yeah, I mean, seriously, like, let us know what you think, guys. I would love to hear back from you what your thoughts are. Like, I see it all the time. Especially down here in where I live in Tampa. The local police agencies, you have, Tampa Police, you got the Sheriff's Office for Hillsborough County. Towards the end of the year, they used to make it where if you gave and donated to a certain fundraiser, like a fundraiser, like it was like, juvenile diabetes or something like that, research foundation or something. I don't know if that's exactly what it was. I could be pulling. That's probably not even right. But if you gave a certain, if you gave money to that, you were allowed to do like No Shave November, where you could grow.
I was gonna say No Shave November, yeah.
Especially when like the Lightning and stuff were in the playoffs and stuff. Not this year. No offense, boys. I get it. It's a rebuilding year. But like it was kind of nice because when those guys make the playoffs, they don't shave either. So like you got the cops looking like that, you got all the hockey players looking like that. It's like, yeah, okay, let's do this. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now it's gotten to the point where like you don't really have to cover up any tattoos anymore, as long as it's not anything vulgar or offensive, like blatantly offensive. And most of the stuff, I got a buddy of mine who's a sheriff up in, I forget what county it is, but it's up north, almost into like Chiefland, like maybe up near Ocala or whatnot. But he's got a cool tattoo on his arm, on his forearm, where it's our old regimental insignia, which has got the like the regimental crest for our infantry regiment, and it's got like a Black Hawk and some other stuff on it. Like it's very Army focused and stuff. It's like, who would say anything about it? Like that's part of who you are. Having all that stuff on your arm. People see like, oh, you're in the Army, cool.
And the thing about it too, is like, like a lot of guys that are in the military, they end up going LEO, so and a lot of these guys, they end up getting sleeves and stuff. Like they end up getting like freaking, their whole leg done and all types of stuff.
Like half
and it's like
where it goes from the shoulder down to the elbow and stuff.
Yeah, so it's like,
why does it matter?
Yeah, why should what they wear matter? Like, what does it say about their professionalism? What does it say about their tact? What does it say about how they can handle themselves with people of the public? Like
where the rubber meets the road.
If you think that it's going to change like any kind of bedside manner that these guys are going to have, or any kind of like just if you think it's going to change how it makes people feel about them. I'm gonna come out and say it, like, where I think, like, when you see some guy with tattoos and things like that, I feel like it humanizes them more, just that much more, because it's like, oh well, oh shoot, like, well, check out my tattoos, like, oh, you can
It's like when you
shoot
talk about all the
the
challenge
shoot.
coin you collected. It's like, who gives a shit? Like, you're just talking like, oh, I got this one. I got
Yeah,
this one. Who cares?
exactly.
Find me a ranger medic or a what do they call them? Called SARCs, Special Reconnaissance Corpsmen for the Marine Corps. Like, those
Mhm.
are like top tier medic dudes, and those guys aren't gonna have tattoos at the yin yang. Okay, you're okay, you're alive. You might have got peritonitis because I dropped some chaw out of my mouth into your open abdominal wound. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I don't give a shit. We can solve that. Am I still alive by breathing? Cool. We'll worry about the
Mhm.
peritonitis later. Hey man, sorry about that. It's all good. You saved my life, bro. We're hooking up. Let's go. So tell us what you think about it. We'd love to hear back. I mean, this has gone into the 15-minute mark that we're talking about this stuff. So yikes.
Hey,
Anyway,
beards in this era of Delta Echo India is kind of important, to tell you the honest truth, because all that other stuff is allowed, but that's not.
Is it really equality if it only goes so many ways? Anyway, sorry, dramatic.
What's that? What's that?
Exactly. That was the sound of my head exploding, turning into a freaking marshmallow that went poof in the microwave. So,
Indeed.
let's get to the main conversation, shall we? So, in case you didn't figure it out, this week's episode, we're talking about triggers. Go figure. We read that article and I got pretty triggered. I was like, in a manner speaking, I was like, really? Like, that's a thing? Like, oh my God, like, let's stop being goofy about this. So, we're going to talk about triggers. We're going to talk about what they are, what happens, and things we can do to kind of, get past them. So let's hit the ground running. All right. So we can close out that article. So, trigger, I got two definitions for you. It's an event or circumstance that is the cause of a particular action, process, or situation. Okay. Also, that's the talking about, the thing. It's also something that causes someone to feel upset and frightened because they are made to remember something bad that has happened in the past. Okay. So, before we get into other stuff, let's talk about that. Okay. So, this article is from Counseling and Psychology Services at caps.unc.edu, which is University of North Carolina. This is pretty much understanding mental health triggers. Okay. So, a trigger is a stimulus that elicits a reaction. In the context of mental illness, trigger is often used to mean something that brings on or worsens symptoms. This often happens to people with a history of trauma or who are recovering from mental illness, self-harm, addiction, and or eating disorders. When someone has a history of any of these issues, being unexpectedly exposed to imagery or content that deals with that history can cause harm or relapse. Okay. So before we get, I'm going to just read a couple of things off of this article, and then we'll kind of get back to it after we talk about some personal triggers of ours. So types of triggers and responses to them. You have external triggers. Think senses, sounds, sights, smells, textures that elicit responses. I had one time. I was at work at a preschool, and I smelled something. I don't know what the hell it was, but it made me go all the way back to 2005, 2006 to Afghanistan. It was like it was kind of the same type of year. It was like in the fall, like winter was kind of creeping in a little bit. It was getting chillier outside, but it was just something very earthy, and it was almost like somebody had a grill going, and like they were cooking food, and it was very earthy, and it smelled kind of like that, and I was just like I was like, whoop, like just diverted my attention. I'm like, I smell it. Where the hell is it? And I'm looking around like, am I tripping balls right now? Because I'm really not, but I'm like, huh? By the way, I've never done that. That's obvious. I'm not such a square, just so you know. But anyway, like it just I was immediately thought back to those times like I would go and be out on patrols and stuff first thing in the morning, and it was just like, whoa, like it's pretty heavy, man. Like it's like it was nuts. It was absolutely insane. So you have external triggers. Example: smelling the cologne that was worn by a loved one who has passed away can trigger grief. Great example. Internal triggers: strong feelings that arise based on past experiences. Example: making a doctor's appointment after a negative medical experience can trigger fear. Excuse me. Trauma triggers: strong feelings that arise based on past trauma. Example: the sound of firecrackers can be trauma triggers for veterans of war. And I'm so glad they brought that up because that's actually one that I was going to use. I'll get back to that in just a second. Stand by. Symptom triggers: a physical change can trigger larger mental health issues. Example: a lack of sleep can trigger symptoms of bipolar disorder. Very good. So, and it's funny because I even made the example in our notes here. It's like later on, you're talking about how it's important not to let your triggers control you. And I gave the example of fire because you have, and mind you, I'm just going off of observed things that I've seen in the past. I'm not singling anybody out. I'm not trying to bring shame or ridicule them. I'm just using it as an example because it's pertinent to the conversation, right? So you have those folks that are like, oh, don't do fireworks around me. I'm a war vet. Stuff. I was like, I get that, but like fireworks are kind of like part of 4th of July. They're part of New Year. It's like it's part of being a kid. You know, it's like it's something that we do to kind of, even though they're all legal. Yes, okay. The naysayers at home are like, but fireworks are illegal. You can't buy them. Hey, do push up, you. All right, shut up. We get it. Like, it's fine. I get that. But at the same time, like, you know, should you really let that ruin your night and like be that kind of person? Can you help that, or is
we
it
can't buy them except 2 times of the year
when they're everywhere? That's ridiculous. And if they were that worried about it, there'd be somebody there from code enforcement or local PD or the SO shutting that shit down. Do they? But no, not at all. Absolutely not. So, damn if you do, damn if you don't. Whatever. So,
it's bananas.
Talk. It's bananas. That shit is bananas. BANANAS. That shit.
BANANAS.
Just popped into my head. Oh man, sorry. So, for some, a trigger might cause a physical response: heavy breathing, sweating, crying. For some, a trigger can elicit an emotional reaction like thinking, I am being attacked. For others, a trigger can cause harm or relapse. After experiencing a trigger, a person may have big negative feelings: overwhelm, powerlessness, fear, etc. These feelings can be detrimental to mental health and are often a challenge to effectively address after they arise. The behavior that emerges after a trigger can range from relatively minimal, crying, to serious acts of violence, for example. Someone exposed to a trigger may experience impaired judgment or awareness. So,
I freaking like, well, no, I was gonna say like I've experienced it. Like you talked about a trigger you had with the freaking smells, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've had that. I've had smell before as well, but I've also had, where you hear the and like kind of like you're just like, huh, and it sets you off. That was something that I had to readjust to when I first got home. Especially like which I'm pretty sure like most guys that have gone to combat, they have to deal with that kind of stuff. You know, like I know for a fact for me, one trigger I had was trash debris on the side of the road. Like it was like I was like, yeah, what is that? You know what I mean? Like Like, no, because I mean, in all honesty, like in Iraq, and I'm pretty sure it was the same in Afghanistan. I mean, everything, everything, everything could be turned into a bomb. From, or I think you're muted. Yeah, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I don't know how I
No,
clicked that. My bad.
yeah,
No,
and
what I was saying is a good example. And like and we were in Afghanistan, we really didn't have a lot of trash around. If we did, I didn't really notice it because like the thing that was really amazing to me about the Afghan people was like how resourceful they were. Anything that they could take and reuse and repurpose into something else, oh, they did that. They absolutely did that. They would take like you'd have these old Soviet tanks where the only thing left. Think of like a dead turtle. How you just have the shell and the carapace underneath. All of the soft tissue has been plucked out of that animal, and you just have the shell.
yeah,
Top and bottom. Nothing squishy, no moving parts, no fleshy stuff in the middle. That's what these tanks looked like from like their like independence wars and all the stuff they had back in the 80s and whatnot. Excuse me. When they had like their like revolutionary type engagements and stuff with the Soviets and all that kind of stuff. I know I'm not using the right terminology for the history folks out there. Bear with me. It's been a long day. It's Friday. The fact that we're on a podcast, my brain feels like a fried egg. I get it. Bear with me. But I mean, you'd have these little tank hulls just everywhere, all over the place. Where these tanks were destroyed or whatnot, and every piece of wire, machinery, anything out of their fabric could be used. Like we found an ejection seat out of a Soviet MiG, and the parachute had the two drogue chutes, which are like what when it comes up out of the plane, the drogue chutes deploy and it kind of pulls it away from the aircraft so that it can freely, drop out of the sky. But the main parachute was cut out because like that's probably good material that somebody used for clothing or for shelter or some kind of shit. I mean, they would recycle everything. It was amazing, but we didn't really have too much trash. Sidebar, please continue. My bad.
No, you're good. But yeah, like I mean, like I was saying, like everything could be turned into a bomb over there. I mean, from a dead animal carcass to trash on the side of the road to soda cans, like everything.
Did you have
They
any
would
of those like scooters that you could start remotely?
scooters that you could start remotely.
So mind
No.
you, I was in Afghan. Can you click off the article for a second, dude? I'm like squinting to look at you.
Sure.
Back to that in a second. So we had like you'd have like those little like moped scooter looking things, and they could be like 50, 60 feet, almost 100 feet away. And on the key fob, you had a remote starter where it would start it and crank it up and have it running. So like if it was cold, you could have it cranking for at least a minute or two before you got to it. Held yourself off. And one of our guys over there is like, "Oh, look at this! This is a perfect way to start to blow up freaking Uncle Sam's boys and stuff." Just started up and like around the corner, you literally could be on the side. Like he was around the side of a bee hut and like literally stuck his hand underneath the thing, went, boop, 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 and it started up, and it was just like, oh, I was a little paranoid of freaking mopeds and stuff for like a week or so. I was just like, shit. So, but yeah, anything can be turned into a bang. All that kind of crap.
Yeah. You'd be surprised the amount of crap they use to freaking be like triggers and freaking
Didn't they use a lot of dead dog carcasses?
explosive device controls. Oh yeah, dog carcasses, goat carcasses. They didn't care. They turned anything into a bomb. What really scared the crap out of me though when I was over there were the freaking fucking buried compressor, but like it's basically like you take like a can like this, right? And what happens is it's got like almost like a cone shape at one end, and what you're doing is you're stuffing explosive, what you call it, down into the can, and
You make a
you
shape chart.
know, and what it is this is your exit, right? Think of it like a mini cannon, and then after all the explosive materials stuffed into there, like about right there, I'm talking about it's packed, like packed so tight. You take all the material that you want to be like your shrapnel, and you shove that down on top. And I think it's what they called was an EFP, because what
Oh
it would
yeah,
do is
explosively formed projectiles. A lot of times they would use
would be like
copper.
that. Yeah, it would be like that inside of the can before it
Okay,
went up. Once it exploded, basically the charge would literally cause it to go like that and exit the tube. And what you
right.
would get eventually is kind of like a whoop, and it would pop out. We had vehicles that literally got cut through like butter with those things. It was absolutely terrible. And we had one vehicle that got hit, and it was just it was bad.
Angle.
Yeah, it was bad. And I felt absolutely terrible for the guys that were in there. I think out that with that vehicle, I think the guys that got hit, they were I can't remember. I think I'm almost positive it was I'm almost positive it was Ghost Company, the guys that were hit.
I think it
And
was. I think you've mentioned that story once or twice before.
yeah, and it was terrible, man. Like absolutely terrible. Like there was I think there was one survivor out of that truck. One. And I think it was the guy that was up in the TC hatch. It's amazing
Sea
what
hatch. What are you talking about? Oh, that's right. You guys were driving strikers.
Humvees or Strikers, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. We had the fancy stuff. We had hatches on the back and the front.
Yeah. Those EFPs are no joke, man. Basically, you take any type of explosive under like copper or some kind of
They were
malleable
not.
metal.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, they
shit.
were not. They were scary as shit. They cut through Abrams, man. They did. They cut through Abrams that were over there. That's how bad they were.
Yeah. All right. So
So yeah,
let's
that's why
talk
I'm
a
scared of
little bit.
stuff,
So
even
I
to this
mean,
day sometimes.
I get that, dude. So I'm gonna switch over to that other article real quick. And it's, and so, like I said, I'm gonna switch over to that second article and what it really means to be triggered. This is on healthline.com. Called what it really means to be triggered. It has a date of actually it's medically reviewed by Timothy J. Legg, PhD, Doctor of Psychology, April 25th of 2018.
Leg.
Dr. Legg. All right. So, common triggers may include reading or watching something that reminds you of a traumatic event and causes emotional distress. Phrases, odors, or sounds can also be triggers. If you really want to watch some really good stuff on this, go and watch some of the old reruns of MASH. Like that's still a great show to this day. My daughter loves watching it. What's crazy is they started talking about some of this stuff. Like the first couple of seasons, it was a situational comedy, it was a sitcom, but then it really got into being a war drama. There's a really good episode where Hawkeye kind of goes down and out for the count because this kid comes in, he was in like water all night, he smells like moldy water, and it triggers something from his childhood. And one of the greatest secondary characters that they wrote was Dr. Sidney Freeman, who's a psychiatrist. And he came in and had to break down what was causing all this with Hawkeye, and it was such a powerful episode. I forget what season episode it is, but if anybody's a very, um, very avid Mash fan, I know what I'm talking about. But I digress. At some point in the last few years, you've likely seen the phrase trigger warning or abbreviation TW online, or heard someone say that they were triggered by something. Triggers are anything that might cause a person to recall a traumatic experience that they've had. For example, graphic images of violence might be a trigger for some people. Less obvious things, including songs, odors, or even colors, can also be triggers depending on someone's experience. A trigger warning is simply a way of letting people know the content they're about to consume may contain triggers. This gives people the chance to avoid the content if they wish. Triggers aren't anything new, but the concept of them has started popping up more and more in casual conversation in mainstream media, leading to confusion and debate on the topic. It's a very real experience. In mental health terms, a trigger refers to something that affects your emotional state, often significantly, by causing extreme overwhelm or distress. The trigger affects your ability to remain present in the moment. It may bring up specific thought patterns or influence your behavior. Triggers can widely Triggers vary widely and could be internal or external. Specific phrases, odors, or sounds can all be triggers for people who have experienced traumatic events, such as rape, military conflict, physical assault, emotional abuse, or the loss of a loved one. Reading or watching something about a similar traumatic event can also trigger distressing memories or flashbacks for people living with post traumatic stress disorder. I personally call it PTS because it's not really a disorder, I don't think, but it's just me. Substance
Mhm.
use disorders often involve triggers too. Many people often find it helpful to learn their triggers so they can recognize them and choose to either avoid them or come up with a plan for dealing with them. Part of treating conditions like PTS and substance use disorders often involves working on ways to cope with triggers in helpful, productive ways. In recent years, people have started including trigger warnings for content dealing with a range of topics, including there's going to be quite a bit of here, quite a bit here, so bear with me. Homophobia or transphobia, rape and other forms of sexual violence, child abuse, violence, incest, animal abuse or death, racism, self harm, suicide, pregnancy related issues, eating disorders, sizeism, or fat shaming. This isn't an exhaustive list, but descriptions of any of the above can contribute to upsetting memories or flashbacks if you've had a traumatic experience related to any of these things. You may also have seen a trigger warning before content that refers to or shows political viewpoints, insects, bodily waste such as vomit, feces, or urine, nudity, medical issues, blood, religious topics. Discomfort versus trauma. This says there is no doubt these topics can be unpleasant, offensive, or distasteful, but it's important to understand the distinction between discomfort and trauma. For a lot of people, these topics won't cause flashbacks, dissociation, or other distressing emotional experiences. The more casual use of trigger warnings usually comes from a good place, but it can sometimes have the unintentional negative impact for people dealing with trauma. For example, it's led some folks to believe that people who need trigger warnings are overly sensitive, fragile, or incapable of coping with the stress. People may also say they're triggered without a true understanding of what being triggered involves. Some triggers are common. For example, reading descriptions of rape might trigger flashbacks or
Mhm.
distress for many rape survivors. The triggers can also vary between people. Here's a look at how triggers may affect different people. So, loss of a loved one, I don't want to say that's not important. I don't want to read it, but I kind of want to get to the ones that were a little bit more pertinent to our conversation. So the main one was military combat. So a soldier was stationed abroad and waiting in a quiet street outside a house they thought was empty. A garbage truck rattled by, close enough for them to smell the rotting food waste. The sound of the truck faded, but then they heard several deafening booms. Before they could even get to their weapon, they lost their entire unit over the course of two back to back explosions. Now, every time they hear or smell a garbage truck or anything that sounds like one, they get tense and reach for a gun that isn't there. Substance abuse. Someone used to hide their
Mm.
alcohol in an old wooden box. Every time they opened the box, the smell of cedar would rush out. They would put a favorite album on and sit back in bed drinking. They know at which point in the album they start feeling the effects of the alcohol. Eventually, they would build up a tolerance to the alcohol and listen to the entire album without feeling any effects. This leaves them feeling hopeless. Years later, whenever they see an old wooden box or smell cedar, they crave a drink and feel the burn of alcohol in the back of their throat. And the album makes them remember how they felt at that point. When they hear a song from the album in public, it makes them take a minute to remind themselves that they aren't in that place anymore. So, what was the other one I wanted to read? So, it was, yeah. So let me read. Okay, the first one is they can be hard to communicate to others. So if you have experienced trauma and have triggers, the debate surrounding triggers and the use of trigger warnings can be uncomfortable. Maybe you've experienced pushback when trying to tell someone you're feeling triggered, or maybe you're self-conscious about telling someone about your triggers because they tend to have a knee-jerk reaction to any mention of the topic. If someone often brings up triggering topics to you, these tips can help you broach the subject in a productive way. State your feelings as specifically as possible. When you said X, it made me feel anxious and afraid because of my history. State a boundary. It's hard for me to talk about X. If it comes up in conversation, I'll need to leave the room. Ask for a warning. I know it's hard to avoid the subject of X. Could you let me know beforehand if it's going to come up? As you navigate these conversations, remember that trauma is a complex but very real experience that affects people in a variety of ways. Not everyone who experiences something potentially traumatic develops residual trauma or triggers. This fact leads some people to question the legitimacy of triggers in general. Traumatic experiences can affect people in various ways. Two people may have similar traumatic experiences but respond to them in very different ways due to a range of factors, such as the, their age during the traumatic event, underlying mental health conditions, family history, access to a support network, cultural or religious beliefs. And I think all of those are very, very, very applicable. If you have access to someone that you can talk to about this kind of stuff, you know, absolutely, it's not going to be as bad if somebody is that way. You're pointing to the air over there.
It's over there.
Yeah, it's off screen somewhere. But yeah, all that stuff is incredibly important. But
I would say
uh,
so.
and finally, there's the whole trigger warning debate. Generally, trigger warnings are given to help prevent people who have experienced trauma from experiencing the trauma again and experiencing mental health symptoms as a result. The concept of having such a warning stems from research on PTSD, but not everyone agrees with this approach. While many experts believe that trigger warnings allow people who've experienced trauma to decide whether they're prepared to see or read something, others think they're potentially harmful to people who haven't experienced trauma. A 2018 study of 270 people with no history of trauma suggests trigger warnings made the participants feel more vulnerable. Many reported feeling more anxious when they received a warning about potentially distressing content before reading the material. I can understand that because it's kind of like if you're like, oh, here comes the scary part. It's like you're priming your behavior and you're getting to the point of being told this is what's going to happen, so that you kind of are going along with it, even though you don't have any, you know, traumatic events which may cause that. You see enough of these warnings, it's kind of like they're priming you and kind of encouraging you to feel this way, and they're doing the exact opposite of what they're trying to prevent. So I totally can understand
Yar.
that. Bottom line, triggered has taken on several new meanings in recent years, leading to a lot of confusion about what it actually means. For people who have experienced trauma, being triggered is a very real and concerning phenomenon. And while it may not be someone's intention, using the term to refer to someone they believe is being very emotional or sensitive only adds to the stigma surrounding mental health. So, and they also they are a bunch of different online therapy sources. They have BetterHelp. There's one called Talkspace, onlinetherapy.com. There's HERS, which is a medication for anxiety and depression, um, all the other stuff. So, again, this article came out 25 April of 2019, written by a Crystal Rapol. You can find it on healthline.com/health/triggered uh, hashtag takeaway. So, yeah. Going back to the other article now, let's go back to the UNC article and then talk about it's the section that's going to say coping strategies for those who get triggered. If you would pull that up, please, Al. Hold on, wait, I'll whistle.
Yeah.
Yar. You're indeed.
It's take cheapest.
Hey, do me a favor. Keep going. I gotta cut off here for just a second. I gotta go check on something real quick. Okay, so I'm gonna disconnect. I'm just gonna mute my mic, stop my cam for a minute. So carry on, and I'll be like back in a flash. Okay.
Yeah. Also, folks, if you end up having issues where you find yourself being triggered by certain things, I'm going to tell you guys from experience. Myself included in the camp of having had um issues, having had things trigger certain feelings inside of me and whatnot. um I want to tell you, you guys are not alone, number one. And um number two, um there are ways to help you through it. You're not alone. And you know it also doesn't mean that there's something severely wrong with you where you can't um function outside of function in society and things like that. um because I noticed a lot of the times that there's sometimes a tendency to want to kind of um self isolate, and you keep yourself from being involved in things and whatnot. And I would discourage that, just because I feel like conversation, exposure, things like that, that's like some of the best medicine. You don't get better by secluding yourself. You get better by, you know, working through it, sometimes in small doses, sometimes in big doses.
Can we break that down for me? You brought up a very interesting point there, talking about isolation. So I kind of want to respectfully disagree with you because so this brings up this is kind of this was a little bit of a hot topic subject for me. So when my brother came home, my older brother came home after he had an incident driving being an over the road truck driver, and he came back home and he ended up just moving into my old room, right? So which one are you pulling up? I think we're good with just minimize that for a minute while we're talking. Um, but he kind of just came home, and again, I'm not talking anything bad about my brother who is no longer with us, but he kind of came home and just kind of moved his shit back into my room, and I was like, oh, okay. So I spent the next 2.5 years living in my daughter's room part time, which sucked, but at the same time, it's like it's what needed to happen. I very much considered um, getting like one of those small like little um, like sheds that you could put in your backyard or on your property that you could like live in. It's like kind of like a studio, a very tiny studio apartment. And I was like, I'm gonna do that. It's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna have my own place. And our good friend Brian was like, don't do that. No, you're gonna isolate. You're gonna end up turning into a recluse and all that stuff. I'm like, I just need somewhere I can lay down, rest my ass and my head at the end of the day, and have my own space. Yeah. And he was just like, yeah, it means well, but like, we don't need to do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm kind of what you consider like an ambiverted person There's times where I'm very much extroverted. I want to be around other people, and there's times where I'm like, "Namaste, the fuck away from me! Like, leave me alone! Like, go over there. Distance direction, move out."
I'm gonna agree with that statement. I'm very much in that camp as well.
Like
Um,
when we went and did the walk in Altamont Springs, that was very much an awesome experience because we were extroverted. People, we were talking about our podcast. You know, we're not trying to get notoriety. We're not trying to get famous. We're just trying to bring attention to a worthy cause, and that was a great way to
yeah,
do that. And again, props to your lovely wife for recommending that to us, Tisha at Flipside Mentorship. Check it out, flipsidementorship.com. Shameless plug. So that was, I mean, that was totally worth it.
shameless plug.
So there's other times though, man, like I want to go and I want to get a small one person tent. I want to go hike into the like 5 or 6 miles into the brush, find a nice little area in the middle of like not in the middle of winter, but like when it's in the like mid to late fall, not quite winter, but it's fall. It's cool outside. It's comfortable. You can look up and see all the stars in the freaking sky, and just be by myself and not be available by phone. Like, fuck yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. Go
So let's go.
backpacking, freaking
Yeah,
bring out like a little canvas tent with like one of those little like box stoves that you could cook food on.
look up something called a teacop. It's a tent combat one person. It's a one person tent. Like these things are badass. It's kind of like what they're issuing right now. I'm trying to save up
Yeah.
to get one because they're pretty dope. But yeah, it's called a teacop. It's pretty dope. Um,
Nice.
yeah, like that's when we go up camping up in Ocala, like we talked about. I'm gonna hopefully have one because hell yeah. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things. If you want to pull that back up now, please, Alan. There's a lot of different coping strategies.
Yeah.
We're going to cover a few of those because there's some decent ones. There's quite a few good suggestions on here towards the end of this article. Um, Ways to help some. So we're going to start with this. Ways to help someone who gets triggered. Be curious. Learn to engage in difficult situations with a focus on maintaining a positive relationship. Learn what is triggering for those around you and try to avoid causing pain. Remember to respect an individual's right to not share or share on their own timeline. And I think that's a crucial one. Everybody wants, we live in very much that instant gratification culture and society nowadays. Say, hey, what's wrong? Why aren't you telling me? Like, oh my god, like why? And it's so annoying. This is one of my triggers, right? It's annoying when people go on to a public forum like social media and they're like, oh, I wish people would email, and then they start reaching out like, hey man, what's going on? They're like, why are people getting in my face? It's like, because you posted this shit online there, you ding dong. Like, what did you expect to happen? If you know, like if I need to write some stuff down,
That
I'll
part.
tell you where I put it. Right here in a freaking low tech journal. It's not connected to the internet. It can't be hacked. And when you don't want somebody to read it, you throw it in the fire and destroy the damn thing when you die so no one reads the stuff. Duh. Like
Yerp.
low tech kind of still works sometimes, people.
Oh yeah.
Stop
But
it.
it also helps you. It also helps you freaking just do that kind of verbal diarrhea thing where it's just like,
The
I
verbal
don't
down.
want to talk to anybody about like that, but I'm just gonna take this piece of paper and I'm just gonna.
That leather bound journal does not judge. It is not prejudicial. It listens, and it takes everything you want to put on paper and just holds it there so you can get it off of you.
Yar.
Journaling. We might need to do an episode on journaling. Like, oh my
Hell
god,
yeah. Hell
that's
yeah.
that's something. Like, if you're not doing that,
Episode ideas.
hashtag episode ideas. Like seriously, like if you ever need to get some stuff off your chest, out of your head from cluttering up that headspace up there, put it in a freaking journal. My daughter's got like two of them. She writes stuff down every once in a while. My biggest thing, and I'm gonna throw myself under the bus. I don't do it often enough. I'm so busy with work, with doing the podcast. Now the podcast is something I want to do, but I'm just so busy with my time during the week. Like I often, for a lot of times, I'll forget about it. I'm like, I look back and I've got like a little time code that I use for my last entry, like the date, the time, and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, I haven't written this thing in over a fucking year. Like, Jesus. So journaling, do it. Hey, Don't hold that shit inside. Write your stuff down. Be a man.
Be a man.
Be empathetic and listen without judgment. Be a safe space for those around you. Avoid taking another's behavior personally, nor making negative judgments about someone's feelings and behavior. Maintain good boundaries. Boundaries help everyone to be clear on expectations, which adds security and predictability. I can tell you, for a lot of people, I'm just this personality where like I'm very much the kind of like, hey, listen, you want to talk, man? Verbally dump this stuff out, like verbal diarrhea. Go, just let me have it. I'll listen. I don't judge, and if they want feedback, I'll offer it. If not, hey, I'll sit there and listen to them. Like, okay, you feel better? Did you get off your chest? Yeah, cool, awesome. So there's that. Okay, moving along. Next topic. Help with coping. Ask about strategies that work for the person to relax and take care of themselves. Encourage more time spent on self-care activities. That's another health. That's another show topic right there. Self-care. Use trigger warnings if you develop content. Providing a warning could potentially for before potentially triggering content provides time for people to prepare or, if needed, to opt out of challenging or emotional materials. Okay, so we kind of talked about that in the last article. So, coping strategies for those who get triggered. Learn to identify. Consider reactions to past triggers. Who or what was involved, where, when, and why it took place. Observe patterns and obvious signs of risk to prevent a similar situation. Make a plan to address. Create a plan to address triggers and emotional reactions. You may want to talk to loved ones or your treatment team to let them know how they can best help you when you are triggered. Be sure to carefully address triggers that occur repeatedly because each time they do, the emotional reaction may be greater, so get stronger, pretty much. Try problem focused coping. Confront your stressor directly or try to find a solution to the stressor. For example, commuting past the hospital may cause you to remember traumas from the hospital. You can find another commuting route. Try emotion focused coping. When you cannot eliminate or avoid a trigger, focus on regulating your reaction to a stressor, which may help reduce the stressor's impact. For example, meditation can help reduce stress, anxiety, and depression. Communicate if someone is triggering you. A person triggering another person is often unintentional. Talk to them about the impact of their actions to clear up any misunderstandings and consider possible solutions. Have an open, calm, and understanding dialogue. Be willing to work with them. If the person who is triggering you refuses to act sensitively, it may be best to set clear boundaries. If another person's doing it, you can just be like, hey man, you're fucking on my Zen thing, dude. Like, did you back off? And then HR gets involved. That's a slightly different story. So, to each
Kind
their
of
own.
like Tron. Kind of like in the movie Tron
Sam,
Legacy.
you're
Sam!
messing with my Zen thing, man.
With my Zen thing,
That's
man.
exactly
Yeah,
what I was
basically.
going for, dude. Oh, dude. It's fun. By the
Uh,
way, I've heard from several people on reliable, good information that the Tron ride at Disney World is badass. Check,
yes.
we need to check that out. It's supposed to be pretty dope.
Yes, we do.
So, yeah. Let's see. Find the right therapy. Specific types of therapy have been shown effective in addressing triggers, such as exposure therapy or EMDR therapy. I'm not sure what that is. We'll have to look that up another time. Support groups can also help the person feel less alone. Reality check your thoughts. To minimize the escalation of thoughts and feelings, it may be helpful to reality check thoughts to assess their reasonableness. A few ways to do this include: one, check facts. What is undisputably true, and do the facts support your interpretation? Consider cognitive distortions. Number two, identify faulty or inaccurate thinking, perceptions, or beliefs. Three, reframe. Reshape automatic negative thoughts into positive thoughts. And four, proportionality. Ask yourself, is the reaction disproportionate to the trigger? Okay, and that's something I think a lot of people nowadays probably struggle with. Is like, okay,
Yeah.
are you going to get upset and turn into a screaming freaking psychopath Karen if you didn't get the parking spot you wanted at Target? Like, is the
That
reaction? How is the reaction to it? Like, if you don't get the park where you want to park, it's a parking lot. There's a bunch more. Like, go find one.
Besides, given our
and get on with
society
your
today,
life.
there's nothing wrong with walking a few more steps.
Lord knows I could use it. I know I could. Yeah. Look for trigger warnings. Now, again, we talked
Saying it
about in a
without
previous
saying it.
episode that could be good or bad, just depending. So, trigger warnings can help alert you to triggering material, especially materials related to suicide or violence. Sometimes an article will provide a trigger warning at the start of the piece. You can even ask others to provide you with a trigger warning about materials they share. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's kind of, I would say that's a per person instance right there. Some people
Correct.
might need to have
I would
that.
say
Some
so.
people would be like, okay, let's talk about it. Let's be brave and step out there on that little gangplank and let's walk the plank and see if we can walk the emotional plank, see if we can figure this stuff out. So, practice self care. I think this is a good way to end this. Prioritizing your mental health can help build resilience against potential triggers. You can start by talking to
Show enough
someone,
can.
such as a loved one, friend, or therapist. You may also want to practice mindfulness, meditation, deep breathing, or journaling. How about that? How about that? Yeah, just saying. Whether it can be difficult to control triggers, those who experience them can learn from past experiences, apply what they learn, and limit the risk of being re-triggered. Avoid only focusing on what happens after a trigger. Also focus on what can be done beforehand. Each time a person is triggered is a learning opportunity that can help manage reactions in the future. If a person can't control their trigger fully, they may be able to limit the emotional reaction to it before it becomes problematic and hard to address. They might even be able to prevent the trigger by preparing for it. There's always, there is always, wait, what?
There is always something you can control. I'm
And they
assuming is
added
what
an extra
you're
word in
going for.
there. Huh?
Yeah.
There's always something you can control. Anything that offers a little control over mental illness can keep us well. Okay. So this was adapted from a NAMI blog, which is the National Alliance for Mental Illnesses, which is who did the walk-in, put on the walk that we just did in Altamont Springs. So
Nice.
I'm going to end it by saying this. Okay. We talked about some, overcoming the conscientious breathing, mindfulness, professional help, therapy, all that good stuff. What are some of the things, Almo, that trigger you? This is us in the spotlight, no holds barred. Give me like three things that trigger you, and you're just like, you're on the point of like, seems to go in the face kind of thing.
You
What are
talking
three
about like
things?
on the civil?
It could be
Oh,
military, it could
excuse me,
be
Jesus.
civilian, it could be a combination of the two.
And
Three
civilian.
things that just, whatever. Three things that trigger you, or you just like, you want to
On
pull
the
a Rennie
civilian
Stimpy and
end,
go,
um,
like three things that make you gets you that almost make you the Ren Stimpy.
wait,
Shut
wait,
up,
wait,
you
wait,
idiot!
but
Like that kind of thing.
you have you ever had a dream that you can't what you no sorry you had trouble getting that part out, so I was just like I wonder what's going on. No, but
I had a glitch. Y2K shut this shit down a long time ago.
um I would say civilian end, on the civilian side, I would say probably more so just feeling like things are out of control in terms of well, I mean just everyday life. I mean just name something. When things are out of control, I tend to lose control. So
Is it
that's
is it is it kind of like being kind of like feeling you're in a car speeding down the highway, but you're in the passenger seat. There's no one in the driver's seat, and you can't reach over and like
and
steer the
I cannot
freaking
reach.
wheel. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Just
It's
just giving
very
a
much
mental
like
just giving a mental picture there, my dude. I just was kind of like, yeah, let's
yeah.
see. Okay, so that's one. So
That's definitely a trigger.
lack of control.
Honestly, I would say on the military side, I cannot stand the smell of rot. And for multiple reasons related to when I was over in Iraq. Um, it could be, rotten meat, whatever. Um, it's not a good feeling. Um, so it upsets me. And I have a tendency to rather than avoid, I will get upset with those who have allowed some said things to happen. Yeah, that's two. And
We're doing the German 3 tonight. We're doing the German 3.
yes,
That's the British, the German.
honestly,
You got two, man. I literally just pulled a curveball out of my hind parts. I was like, yeah, let's throw this one. So
yeah, honestly, number three, it's kind of like a combination of um I would say military and civilian, like,
we're on time limit,
it,
everybody. Spit it out.
oh, well, I'm sorry there, buddy. um I don't know. It's kind of like that thing of, you're in the situation where you don't does that and it reminds me of when I was, stuck on the vehicle. I couldn't get out and, help the guys that were in that house that went off. Like, you want to help, but
Helplessness.
you don't really know what to do because you're being restricted from helping. Yeah, that's another one. But I mean, I think it's relatable to a lot of different things. And when you want to help so bad, but you can't.
Yeah, you're just kind of stuck and you can't do anything to affect the situation.
Yeah,
I get that. So my three that I pull off the top of my head. One, and this is gonna make me sound like such an old coot, but like,
I mean, you are an old geezer.
I'm not 40 yet, dude. I got a couple of months to go. By the way, shout out to my buddy Kevin. Last week he just had his 40th birthday. Happy birthday, bro. Freaking when young people don't respect older folks. And there's so many good examples of that. Like, there's that movie, I think it's Secondhand Lines with Robert Duvall and Michael Caine. And this guy, that young kid, they're just sitting having breakfast. He's like, "Hey man, how's them bacon or whatever?" He goes over and he's like, "This is a good example of this guy who's been stuck on his mama's tit too long. He don't know no damn manners." And the guy turns around and he's like, "Don't kill him. Just get the point across. Don't kill him." So he grabs him up by the throat. He's like, he's explaining all the stuff he's done in his life. I've led men with armies, tanks, on horses. Seen like tribes of men no white men have seen before.
Killed many men, loved one woman.
What was that? Is it Secondhand Lions? Is the name of that movie?
I think so.
Yeah, it's when they don't respect people like that. Like, you see, like, and I'm just making an example. I haven't seen this offhand, in person. Like, you see that, like, a war vet or somebody that's trying to get across the street, and he's got something with him, and he needs to have like an extra set of hands, and nobody's helping him. The young kids are just so oblivious because they're playing. I know I'm probably aging myself. They're doing the Pokemon Go thing. It's like they're just zapped into their phones and shit. It's like,
yeah,
get up.
it's Roblox and something else.
Minecraft.
Yeah, I think Minecraft is on the phone now too. Now that I think about it.
So it's that. Another one is when, and this is kind of a broader kind of example, but like when other people affect my day. And what I mean by that is, like, you're not paying attention. You're a car ahead of me, and there's like 3 cars in front of you. The light turns green. Those 3 cars go. You're on your damn phone or doing your makeup in your car or whatever, not paying attention. And then the light turns red, and then you freaking skim through that red light and run it because you're on your way to work. I'm not going to run it because it's always the second person that gets caught, and I don't drive like an asshole. It's when other people do that kind of stuff that affect my day. Like, I was so mad at that damn deer that hit my car.
Yeah.
I was like, seriously? Like, I got to deal with all this shit, like the rental car and all this crap? Yeah. So, things like that. So, lack of respect.
A damn deer ruined my day.
affecting, like when you unintentionally affect other people's, actions or day and stuff. And it's like my personal standard is like that kind of goes to like that whole 15 minutes early thing. Like if you're there, you got to be there somewhere at 6:30. You're there at least by 6:15, right? And if you're gonna make me be
Mhm.
late from that, like that's a problem. So there's that. And then another trigger thing is like how kids these days are just so whiny. Like
Yeah.
kids need to like toughen up a little bit. Get outside, get dirty, get bloody. It's like don't just stand inside. Like, oh, go outside. It's hot. I'm like, man, we didn't come inside until the street lights came on, and you had that mom was
Basically.
like that kind of shit. Like you knew from the next county. It's like mom's calling, gotta go. Bye.
Only with mine, it sounded like a tornado siren or air strike siren.
You get one of those like wood train whistles. Like, your mom can whistle like that,
Oh
or she would
no,
call you like
it
that.
was just her voice.
That's awesome. Oh, your mom is the best, dude. She's so great. Oh my god, it's fun.
I friend, and it's like I gotta go inside.
Mom's calling, gotta go by.
Yeah, freaking! I'm so glad. Like so far, my kids are like they're the outdoorsy kids. Like they don't want to really be inside. Like Jaden loves his electronics. Okay, let's not get that twisted. But he loves being outside so much more.
I'm looking.
And
I'm hoping.
I thank God for that.
Yeah, I'm hoping. So, like the past couple years, whenever I take my daughter camping, and this is a great little parent hack for like wanting to get your kids outdoors. Take them camping in the backyard because one,
Mhm.
it's close enough to the house. If they get nervous about it, they get a little anxious. They're close enough to the house. There's been a couple of times where we've had something happen where we had to go inside. Rain or like we heard something outside, some kind of goofy carrying on about something weird, whatever. But also close to all these kids gotta go to the bathroom. You don't want to make them go stand outside the ant pile and go pee in the yard because like the homeowner association gonna be like, yeah, hi, yeah, we can't do that. Your kid can't urinate and defecate in the yard. So here's a $250 fine. I'm like, kiss my ass. I'll defecate on your notice and slam it on your door.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen. I'm just painting a very vivid picture there. But it's great because if they need to go inside or something, they're by the house. It's in the backyard. Normally, you have a light somewhere nearby. Like I've got where I go camping on the side of my house. There's a light on the back door to my garage. I can leave that on if I need to. But like I've also got like a little night light that hangs inside of like the tent light, made by the same brand, the same manufacturer. I hang it up in there. She loves it, man. Especially like in the fall or in the winter when it's nice and chilly outside. You can wear like some
Mhm.
sweats and a hoodie and get your blankets. Oh man, yeah, awesome, love it. Go camping. I call it the fresh air B&B.
Mhm. I want to get a canvas freaking tent. One of those really good ones
Pumpkins
where like you
that
set
we
it
had in
up.
basic training.
Yes, but
Yeah, shelter
something
hat.
that's like a 2 or 3 person tent, so that way it has like the little stovepipe thing where you could stick the frick. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Like the little mini like wood fired freaking little
yeah.
stoves
A wood
that you
burning
could put like
stove,
a
and you can
single skillet that you could put the
had a
single skillet on it.
had a chimney you can put up in it. Yeah.
Yeah, that way we can freaking go out camping, cook some food while we're out there, keep warm in the winter.
I can show
Yeah.
you a great way to make this. I'll say it about this offline, but I can show you a great way to make a little small stove out of two, like like the Cafe Bustelo cans, like the big metal cans. You get two of
Mhm.
them, you cut them a certain way and put them together, and you can make a little stove that like burns twigs and shit. Do whatever you need
Yeah.
to. So.
Hell yes.
Anyway, by that time of the show, we're gonna cancel. Gonna start wrapping this up. Cancel. We're gonna cancel shit. So if you're new to the show, Alamo and I have known each other since high school. It's a long time. We got started on this show, and we found out about a friend of ours. We were talking about doing a project together. This is what it kind of ended up becoming. But we had a friend of ours who used to work with us, and we found out that he unfortunately solved a temporary problem with a permanent solution. And at the time, we were figuring out what we were doing. Alamo recommended the podcast. I'm like, I don't know crap about a podcast. I mean, and he's like, dude, how hard can it be? They put a freaking monkey in space. I'm like, facts. So we ended up doing this. So in the process of developing this podcast, we came up with the Bros Code, which is 4 easy things you can do to remember when things are getting rough, things are getting hard. You got to remember the letters BROS, and you're good. So be tenacious. No matter what you do in life, do it to the utmost and fullest of your abilities. You know, when you are fighting triggers and stuff, don't just sit there and go, stop it. Oh my God, stop it. Like, no, you're not going to make me your bitch today. Be tenacious and fight back and say, not today, straight time. You know, that kind of stuff. In the words of the great Ron Swanson, don't half-ass 2 things, whole-ass 1 thing. R, refuse to surrender. Whenever things get in your way, like you're going to have these obstacles that happen in life. You're going to have triggers that come up. You're going to have things that kind of get you a little bit sideways, twisted, whatever the case may be. Just remember that it's not about letting them beat you. If that happens, it's okay to get defeated momentarily, as long as you get back up and you just like keep on chugging along, you know? Like Joe Dirt said, sometimes you got to keep on keeping on, man. That's all you got to do. Refuse to surrender. Oh,
I'm Joe Dirt.
Oh, my sister. I'm messing with my sister. Anyway, it's a good movie. Go back and watch that. Obliterate your obstacles. Going along with the second one, when things come up, get around them. Sometimes you got to traverse through the woods. Sometimes you got to sidestep a few landmines. Sometimes you got to climb up, around, over, under, whatever the case may be. You got to breach a door with some C4 and Bangalores. Sometimes you got to back an armored vehicle into it. So, yeah, that guy. Just remember, obliterate your obstacles no matter what happens. Okay? Keep driving on, hit that OBJ. S, seek out help in a time of need. As I said earlier in the article, I'm sweating a lot, man. A little talky.
That's because you're a sweaty.
Because I got a big ass head. In the article, it talked about getting the right kind of help, whether that's talking to a confidant, a loved one, a friend, a trusted peer. For us, being military folks, it might be somebody you served with that knows what you went through, that was there to experience it with you, or at least has a better inkling or idea or notion of what you're going through compared to those who might not have any idea whatsoever. We are by design social creatures. Do not think you have to go through things alone. In the event of our friend John, unfortunately, he gave in to the demons within and solved that temporary problem with a permanent solution. And it's unfortunate because John's one of those dudes that, like, you can't help but think about him and go, dude, that was fucking awesome. That was funny.
Basically,
we had so many good memories. Just hearing the John laugh just puts a smile on my face every time. Thinking about how he used to laugh at jokes and shit. It was just, he's one of those dudes that was full of life. And the fact that he's not here anymore it's a tragedy. I mean, he left behind a couple of kids that don't know that aren't going to get a chance to know their dad in that respect. And that's just it's a bummer. It really is. And I know I'm not trying to make lightheartedness of it, but like it fucking blows. It really does.
Yeah.
So just remember that you're not alone, even when you're going through hard spots. So if you don't have anybody that you can reach out to, a friend, a coworker, a confidant, a loved one, a trusted peer, a fellow service member, there are options out there for you. If you ever think about harming yourself, there's the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. You can get a hold of it 2 different ways. The first way is the 1-800 number. It's 1-800-273-8255. The last 4 numbers are going to be the word TALK. Tango, Alpha, Lima, Kilo. TALK. 1-800-273-TALK. The other option is to dial 988. That's 988. Now, not only can you call that number, you can also text them, because I guess they've kind of realized, hey, we're in a digital world. Everybody's got a smartphone or a cellular device, and a lot of people text nowadays as opposed to calling. So regardless of how you do it, if you ever need to reach out for that option to get in contact with somebody for that resource, both those ways are viable. The 988, again, you can call or text. That's going to get you in touch with somebody, get you a hold of somebody at the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I think you have to dial 1 or something to let them know you want to talk to somebody. But just know that everybody that goes through stuff like deserves to have their story told. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Okay,
Yeah.
we are trying to stop this right here. This is a statistic about, on average, about 22 veterans a day make that permanent choice to try to solve a temporary problem, and that's 22 too many. And it sucks when it hurts that much worse when one of those people, like we found out for John. Um, John, like I said, he was a funny ass dude, funny fucker, loved life, loved to tell jokes, just loved to be around the guys. We could easily tell 3 or 4 funny John stories like right off the bat like that, man. It's just he's such a good dude. So if you can remember those 4 things, be tenacious, refuse to surrender, obliterate your obstacles, seek out help in a time of need, you have like a 90 to 95% chance of being on the road of being okay. It's okay to not be okay, but that's going to help you get to being in a better state of okay. Reach out to somebody, get the help you need, all that good stuff. Okay. So I'm going to leave that alone. Alamo's going to take over and finish out the sign off stuff. And then we are going to wrap this up and go from there. So Alamo, take it away.
If you would like to contact us via social media, you can find us on pretty much every platform that's out there. Facebook being one of them at facebook.com/battlebros.podcast. You can also catch us on the other meta platform, which is the Insta at battlebros_podcast. You can also catch us on Elon's platform, X, formerly known as Twitter, at Battle Bros PC. On each one of those platforms, you can actually instant message us. You can message us in, the instant messengers. You can private message us, though. However, at our Gmail, which we every episode. The Gmail is battlebrospc@gmail.com. That is battlebrospc@gmail.com. We have that available for you because we know that sometimes it's really hard to talk about our problems.
You ever been sitting in a chair so long that it just makes your rear end hurt? I feel like that's every day now. Like I'm just
or just makes your ass cheek go numb.
Sorry, I'm so sorry to bring that up, but I'm just like people are probably watching. Like, warming around too much. I'm like, I feel like I'm sitting around on my tailbone. It freaking sucks, man. Anyway,
it's because you don't scratch your butt cheeks off. So anyway,
I didn't scratch them off. I got them chewed off and all that stuff. You shut your mouth.
Your booty used to be glorious, buddy. I'm sorry it's gone. So
I appreciate that, man. That's more motivation for me to get it back. Like, oh, I found it. I found it with my marbles. Oh my god.
Yeah, just get them squats there, dear boy. So we know it's difficult to talk about your problems. It's
not. I just talked about the fact that I don't have an ass live on this show. So we can talk about anything.
So we do have a more private option for you where you can contact us. Oh my god, I'm tired. Where you can contact us, and again, that is our Gmail. Once again, that is battlebrospc@gmail.com. And you can contact us there where we monitor the email 24/7. Just waiting for messages from you guys. It could even be, if you're messaging us to, address a family member that you feel is going through a lot, and you've kind of run out of options. And at this point, you're just like, hey, these guys are kind of goofy, but they speak a lot of good sense. And, maybe they can help us get some help for them. Don't hesitate. It's not too late. This is one of the best, this is one of the best ways if you want to contact us privately that you can, because again, sometimes talking about our issues can for some be embarrassing and for others just be
Liberating.
something that correct, liberating. So don't hesitate. Give us a call, give us a message, and we will always make sure we try to get back to you within 24 hours. If you want to catch us on all the audio platforms, you can catch us on all the audio platforms. That's Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, all that good stuff. Just make sure you drop a like on each one of those platforms. Follow it if you feel like it. Feel like it. Feel like it. That's an order. Freaking also
Strenuously behooved suggestion.
exactly. We are on Rumble. We've been having some issues with the approval or something like that. I'm not exactly sure what's going on. I've got to contact Rumble and YouTube to figure out why they're not meshing. But once I figure that issue out, we will be automatically uploading our videos to Rumble once again, and you can catch us there every episode that we do live on the Rumble. Also, we got a buddy. Her name is Amelia, and she has a website, and she has good stuff, and we like that stuff. Mac?
Yeah. I wasn't expecting for you to lead in like that. I'm like, what? So, a good friend of ours, Amelia, has a website where she is a vendor. She sells a bunch of stuff. She pretty much makes these handmade soaps and candles and stuff. Her website is etsy.com/shop/heart to hand homestead. That's heart to hand homestead. The description is down here below on the screen if you are watching live or if you're watching a replay of it. Go on there, check it out. She makes some awesome stuff. She makes handmade soaps. I am a real big fan of the denim and leather. Kind of makes me feel very rugged and masculine and all that kind of stuff. Not saying I'm not, but just kind of gives you those warm fuzzies about that. Alamo likes the coffee and rum scent, which is he's like it's so good. You use that one or the charcoal one for shaving,
dude. For shaving, it's the coffee and the rum. It's like butter, straight up like butter. You're like my face. Whenever I freaking get done shaving, feels so damn smooth. Like this, like seriously, guys, this isn't even a joke. Like I shave with it, and like my face, it's almost as if like my face was moisturized as I was shaving. It's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, check out our website, etsy.com/shop/heart to hand homestead. It's not very expensive. It's well worth it. She's doing this on the side of her regular job. We want to show her a little bit of love. She's always been there to support us and help us out and whatnot. The other shout out we want to do is to a good friend of ours, Brent. If you may remember back in season 2 or 3, when we started doing the veteran interview panel, Brent was our first veteran that we talked about. He now has a website. If you go to skilleddevelopment.com, it's skilleddevelopment.com. He basically does what's called a DISC assessment. Now, what that is, let me pull up the message here. So he says, I'd like to offer a discount code to any of our listeners or veterans for behavioral assessments, which is called a DISC assessment, on my site, skilleddevelopment.com. The code is Battle Bros 100. That's BATTLE BROS 100, and it gets them $100 off any DISC assessment. What is a DISC assessment? The John Maxwell DISC assessment is a powerful tool
Battle
designed to
Bros
help
100.
Battle Bros 100. No gaps, no dash, no nothing. All caps 100. BATTLE BROS 100. Hey, there it is. All right. And then the discount code is Battle Bros 100. Sweet. So, the assessment is a powerful tool designed to help individuals understand their unique behavior style and improve their communication skills. The assessment explores four main personality traits: dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness. With this valuable insight, individuals can learn how to better interact with others and adapt their communication style to various situations. The assessment also provides detailed feedback and personalized coaching to help individuals leverage their strengths and overcome their weaknesses. Whether used for professional development or team building, the John Maxwell DISC assessment is an essential resource for anyone looking to enhance their interpersonal skills and achieve greater success in both their personal and professional life. So again, the discount code for that is Battle Bros 100, BATTLEBROS 100. And I believe those assessments, I want to say, run about $150 off, $150. So you're getting a really good thing for like $50. That's a freaking steal. Brent's a great dude. He's going to help you down the right path to success and help you be better and optimize yourself, no matter what the case may be. So that's it for the shout outs. Thank you, everybody, as always, for joining us for our latest and greatest conversation. This has been episode 080 of the Battle Bros podcast, where we've been talking about triggers. We will catch you folks next week. And just remember, in the meantime, be tenacious, refuse to surrender, obliterate your obstacles, and seek out help in a time of need. Okay, if you can do those four things, you're going to be right as rain. So until then, this is Battle Bros signing off.
Battle Bros. Ouch.